Yo, 2006 RAV4. There's a story behind every car, and this one, I'm not telling you about it. Need some brakes. I gotta go through this thing. They're all a horrible mess. First thing I'm gonna do is pull in all four calipers. I want to see what's going on here. Do a little inspection. I'm going to pull this caliper in with a screwdriver, and it doesn't pull in. I can move this slide right here. This one on the bottom doesn't move at all, so that's bad. I'm going to try to get in between the pad and the caliper piston. I'm going to see if that piston wants to pull in real easy. I'm going to put the screwdriver in here and just try not to get close to this dust boot. I don't want to tear the boot. I just want to see if this pulls in real nice. And it does. It pulls in good. I think I can save this caliper. I'm going to do a slide repair on this one. If I can't fix the slide, I got to replace the whole caliper. That slide's junk. Holy, I'll try real hard to pull it in just for fun now. So I got that caliper pulled all the way in. See, this slide moves, and this side doesn't. So that's a problem. When I put this on the hoist too, I made sure all these rotors turned. It didn't lock up. I don't know, they're barely dragging. They feel kind of good. Onto the right front. This came out on a check brakes grinding. Rotor's gone. I'll do the same to this side. Pull it in, see if this caliper's any good. Amazingly enough, this side actually pulls in really nice. And it kind of slides back and forth. So I'm going to have to do a slide repair to this and just clean these pins really good and lubricate them really good. Yeah, the more I move it, the easier it loosens up. So I think this caliper is going to be fine. Amazingly enough, this was the grinder. Onto this rear rotor. I can already tell this dust boot's gone, so this pin's probably going to be no good. The rotor's got all kinds of rust on the surface, like it's not even working. A lot of times people just grandma break the thing and then they just look like that, or when they sit for a long time. This one turns really good too, amazingly enough. I checked the pad on this, and I got a checker here. It's got different numbers on them, and I'll use a 3mm. It's in red. Right here, it's at about 4mm, but down on the bottom, I can't even get the 3mm in between the pad and the rotor. So it's right down at 3mm. So it's kind of due to be serviced. Yeah, and I can get this top slide to move a little bit. And this bottom slide doesn't move at all. It's all corroded in. I can pull this piston in real nice on this side. So it's telling me this piston's good, the caliper's good, but these slides are junk. On with the left front, same thing. Rotor looks goofy. I can kind of turn it, which is a fairly good sign. The pad looks like it's over 4mm on this side, but it doesn't really matter because the other side's screwed. Same deal here. I can see the top one moving a little bit, and the bottom one's doing nothing. Try to pull this caliper piston in, and it pulls in really nice. So this caliper's going to be good too. So I got to do a slide repair on 3 calipers, and I'm going to do a brake flush, put some new brake fluid in this. And it's going to get all new pads and rotors, all 4 corners, and this should work like brand new. I pumped the brake pedal a bunch of times. I load these calipers back up, these pistons, because I'm going to bleed out this system. And I want to get as much brake fluid out of this as I possibly can the easiest way. And I went around all four corners and I cracked all these bleeders open to make sure they'd all open up. And this one does not. So I'm going to have to get this thing open and try not to break it. If I break it, a lot of times I just replace the caliper, or I leave it and get all cheesy and cheap and just don't bleed out this corner. But I'm going to use a torch on it. A lot of people do things a different way. I got some MAP gas. This is fun. Sparkles. Ooh, pretty. It's a sparkler from the Czech Brakes grinding. Oh, isn't that pretty? Look at that spectacular 4th of July show. I'm going to go behind the bleeder and just try to get the caliper nice and hot. The bleeder's like glowing red right now, so it's really too hot to try to unscrew. I'm going to tap around with a hammer, try to loosen all this stuff up. And I got lucky right away. Sometimes you got to try to do that a few times. You really got to get the feel for it too, and you got, after you do your first couple hundred bleeder screws, you're going to know what it feels like when they feel like they're going to start to break. You just can't get the bottom threads to start twisting. Yeah, I got this thing. This thing's plugged up too, so I got to clean the hole out so it actually works. I'm going to use a needle nose vice grip and just put very light pressure on the hose. Just enough so I don't crush it. Yeah, I can feel it's all the way crushed right now, so I just loosen it up just a little bit. So it's just a nice light pressure. That way I don't wreck that hose. I'll take this out all the way and drill it out. I found the impression of what looks like a hole, and I got a really, really small drill bit. That's what size it is. It's really, really small. I turned the setting all the way down to 1 too, and make sure it's slow. Hopefully it won't break my bit if it feels like biting. Now that I loaded up all the caliper pistons and hit the brake a bunch of times, open the bleeder up. I just got a brake bleeder here with a hose on it, so it all just runs out into the brake bleeder. I'm going to pull this caliper in as much as I can again. And it's going to push all that brake fluid right out. Just pull it in real slow. It feels really nice. These calipers are fine. I'm just guessing, but I'd have to say the last person that did a brake job probably didn't do a very good one. I'm going to close that up, and I'm going to do that to all four corners. I'm going to take this caliper off. These are 14 millimeters. 17 millimeters on these caliper support brackets. I might as well get as much brake fluid out of this reservoir as I can before I go any farther. This thing's got some kind of funky little piece of plastic I can just pull out of here, and then I got a little more room to deal with for what I'm planning on doing. I will get in here with my super sucky machine, and I will suck as much suck out of here as I can possibly suck. It's not sucking. There's a little filter Majabi Dujamahiki in here I'm going to take out. Now I can super suck. I have sucked as much as I can possibly suck, and I can't suck anymore. I'm just going to put this bottle upside down in here and leave it sit there, and nothing will leak out of there, and it'll just keep my reservoir full while I try to bleed this thing out. I'm going to bleed it while I do all these brakes. I'm just going to try to do a gravity bleed to this thing, and I know if this is going to work as soon as I crack this line. Generally, you want to start with the longest line first and go to the shortest line last. And that would be the right rear on this. I'm just going to crack this bleeder screw open, and it's kind of dripping out real slow. Drip, drip, drip. Real nice and slow. And I'm just going to put that on there, that hose. I'm just going to let that go until I get nice clean fluid come out of here. Yeah, right now it's a little yellow, so it's due for a change. Now I get to tackle this crusty crap. I got a 17 millimeter here. This one turns and obviously this one doesn't. I might end up getting a boot for this. I'm going to try not to burn it, but a lot of times they burn, and then I got to get a slide repair kit for this. Get out the MAP gas, and I'm just going to torch this area right here. What that does is get the crappy grease real hot, and it expands this pin boss a little bit. It don't want to move yet. It's starting to move just a little bit, so I'll just keep working it, working it. But I think I'm just going to try to pull out on it while I turn it. Supposed to be a piece of rubber in here. That's anti-rattle stuff. And there's nothing left of the rubber. There's my rubber. I could get a slide repair kit and get these boots, and it comes with this rubber. A lot of times you might want to think about getting a pin too, because this has to be a really good sealing surface or it could rust up again. I'm probably going to reuse all this stuff because I'm cheap. I always wear safety glasses. Probably be a good idea to wear gloves too. That sealing surface looks good enough, so I'm gonna run it. Gonna make sure there's no rips on either of these boots. I'm gonna look in my box and try to find one of these rubbers. I might have one laying around from an old kit. I'm gonna try to find a drill bit that's just a hair smaller than it needs to be, which is this one. I'm going to clean this hole out a little bit. Just try to get a lot of the rust out of it. I don't want to drill it, I just want to clean it. Okay, don't breathe. Breathing causes cancer in the state of California. Just remember that. Got a little brush, I can kind of swab this a little bit. Toss a little brake cleaner in the holes. I got silicone paste, dielectric grease, same stuff. That's what belongs in here. It's a good idea to put some on the sealing surface too. It'll help seal the seals a little bit. I'll put a little oil on this seal on the outside. I'm going to burp this seal. I push it all the way in, and there might be a little air in there, so I just get behind here and push on it, and all that air comes out. I can cheap it out. I haven't found any anti-rattle seals, but I found a pair of O-rings that fit in here. I think that's going to work. I got new abutment clips for this. It's always good to get those, get a quality set of pads that come with abutment clips. Put on a good pair of safety glasses because I know this stuff likes to fly, and I'm just going to chip a lot of this thick rust off of here. Sometimes if you leave this on here, the pads are going to be really tight and they don't slide real good. I'm going to get a file and file this down to bare metal. Yeah, that's really nice. And I'll do the same to the other side, of course. See the way I got these abutment clips? Don't put them that way, they're backwards. There's two different sets of pads and rotors for these RAV4s too. There's bigger pads and rotors for this that are for a third row rear seat. These got little anti-rattle clips on them. And they go so the little tang is facing the brake pad. Now I can get this rotor off. I want to make sure this is a nice flat surface. I don't know, some people sand this stuff off. I think it's a waste of sandpaper. I just scrape away, and if there's any really big chunks, I'll use a chipping hammer and chip it off. I just clean the surface with glass cleaner. You might have a little rag material stuck on here and you just want to wipe it off. If you get that fuzz embedded in between the pad and the rotor, sometimes it can make some funny noise when you hit the brakes. Toss the thing on. Tighten those two 17 millimeters down to a bunch. I would say about 80 foot-pounds. I could be wrong about that, but whatever. If you want to know, look it up. Same with these bolts. I'm just going to do them by hand. Make sure there's no high spots on the contact surfaces on this caliper. Hit it with a file because I can. Put some brake caliper grease on the contact surfaces. A little bit on the piston. A little bit on here. You just want to make sure this caliper slides back and forth really good. Stick your fingers in here and make sure these pads move really nice. And they do. So that's like brand new stuff. That'll be beautiful. Do the same to the other side. I let this right rear bleeder drip for about an hour. That's nice, new, beautiful, clean fluid coming out of there. So I'll tighten this back down. Then I'll bleed the left rear until that's all clean. I have to make a slight correction. There's only 4 of these clips, so you only put them on one side of the pad. I'm going to put them on so they're on the top. The left rear is nice and clean. Onto the right front. And I can just try to be quick about this. I got a couple drops left in this bottle. 32-ounce bottle. It's filled all the way to the top, but that's okay because as soon as I load up all the calipers, the level will go down and it should be just about perfect. 14 millimeters on these calipers. These are 17 millimeters too, just like the front. There's 2 screws that look like they were probably in here from the factory and they're gone. I'm gonna abuse this thing off. Amazingly enough, that emergency brake actually still looks like an emergency brake. Now I'm gonna try to get these pins out so I don't have to get a caliper support bracket for this. I'm going to go to Rillies and see what they can do for a boot kit. Really had them. Pretty good deal on these. I called Nappy Knows Something and they wanted to sell me these in the abutment clips for twice as much money, so I didn't go there. Just like the front. Make sure everything slides real nice like it didn't when it came in. Make sure the pads move really nice in here and they're good and free, and do the same to the other side. Well, I put the tires back on it, put it back on the ground, pumped the brake pedal a bunch of times till I got the calipers totally loaded, and this brake level was a little high, so I ended up sucking a little bit out, and I put that filter thing back in there. I'm gonna call this a fantastic brake job. Okay, bye.